more valuable than this hardcore step by step by step, and then I'm there, because they just don't work anymore. I don't know if they ever did, but a direction is so important, because then you can adjust, you can be dynamic, but you don't forget the direction you're going in.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so this was I had kind of a different direction. So this happens to be my compass, and so right at the top is co-create for me, be in that place of co-creation with the universe.
That's cool. Well, that's a really neat idea.
Yeah. So I'm doing them for $100 for people, and so what it is it feels like it's some feedback I got from people I did it with, a friend of mine. So Rick is here. He's got a new Twitter handle. Wow. Healer's Coach. Awesome. But he obviously is struggling with his camera, but give him a moment.
He's just this radiant being, I guess.
Yeah. One of the things that somebody said is they felt like it's a compass to help them keep on their soul's path.
For sure.
And so it's like, so it's almost like I feel like there's this soul path interpretation going on in this process. So just kind of feeling into that and exploring that. I'm looking forward to that. That could be fun.
Well, that's excellent. And so many people, even just this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
they're ready for a change.
Right.
And some of them have an idea what that is. Some of them don't have a lot of clarity on what that is, but they do know they're ready for a change in direction, right?
Right.
And I think that's where tools like yours is so valuable, because that way they can figure out what the next direction is.
Oh, right. And so like there's 4 directions, right? So
yep.
So we do on the compass. So like east to me is being present, west is to connect, and my south is support.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing. I remember one time over the weekend I was kind of ungrounded, and so I came to the point. It's like, and then I just glanced at it, and what left off to me was, so what happens in here? So there's co-create, and so then I talked about the voice, that the big head in the sky voice, and so
yes, you bet.
And so, and then the thing that I want to pay attention to is higher will, that I'm co-creating from a place of higher will. From that intention, like that just leapt out at me, and totally is like this energy wash went through my body. Yeah.
Cool.
Neat. Yeah.
I think for me,
I'm recording now, so that's all cool. We're just having a little bit of
so
people that are watching this afterwards. Just let them know that we're going to get into it here in a minute. Rick's still working on getting himself. He may have to refresh his browser or something, but
anyway. Sure. Well, I don't know what it is. It's my laptop, but after a certain period of time, you just saw the webcam seems to shut off. So I'm still with you, even though I'm in darkness.
You look a little sleepy.
Yeah, no kidding. So I haven't got raptured or anything. It's all good. I'm still here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't. It's some strange thing with the laptop, and I frankly just haven't taken the time to figure out whether it's a driver or who knows what.
Yeah, exactly. It's Windows.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I saw that.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know if you knew it, but Chaos has a family. It has siblings. So
okay, all right.
The big brother's name is Change.
Okay.
The little sister is the voice in your head, and the older sister is Karma, or cause and effect. It's just it's the natural outcome, right? I mean, because I was thinking about that maybe Chaos's last name was Change. Chaos Change. Hi, I'm Chaos Change.
Exactly.
But literally, it's like but I think that there's I think that there's these different energies. Chaos is when I think we feel like things are totally out of control, and we have this emotional reaction to it. And so change is usually something that's happened in the past that we're suddenly just noticing.
Ah, okay, sure.
Because I think if I go, oh, something's changed, well, that's in the past. And so it looks like Rick's going to try to come back in.
Sure.
And then there's the decisions I made 5 years ago that there's a cause and effect relationship to the decision I made 5 years ago that has created my current reality, or a week ago. And so I think that what do you do when the unexpected happens? I mean, typically we make decisions. We might have an emotional reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were to sit down and have a conversation with the Chaos family, talk to your big brother, your big brother just went and pushed you off the edge of the roof, and suddenly you're laying on the ground in pain.
So what the heck happened?
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. It's kind of funny watching you fall. I mean, you can imagine to simply do that, right?
Oh, yes. What? Right. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know how he got on the ground.
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time, eh?
Yeah.
Well, and I think we have all these words in our society. Let's say chaos is one of them, and it's like it has this archetypal connotation to it. And chaos is bad. We need to stay away from it, avoid it at all costs. If you're in it, get the hell out of it as fast as you can.
Right.
And I find for myself and for so many of our folks is one of the choices we make is changing the connotation to those, if you will, archetypal words, right? And just maybe it isn't what society or we have always believed it to be, right? It doesn't mean doesn't make it magically comfortable, but it changes the whole context of the role that it plays in our experience.
Keep talking about that.
Well, we have these words like good, bad, negative, positive, chaos, change, unknown. That's another one. So maybe, my camera didn't stop working. I was just using it as a graphic example. You see how darkness is unknown. See, I changed the connotation of it.
Right.
But that has a role that I think is more important and valuable than we realize, just by changing the context of the belief or the word. And for me, and of course we've talked about it in the past, there's been a fair bit of, even in the growth of myself and the Healing Center, a fair bit of chaos, everything shaking up, the things that always used to be don't seem to be working, if you will, or be anymore. And so then the thing is, okay, now change the context. What role are you going to have that play in your life? And just by doing that, it can really change the whole outcome of it.
Absolutely. Decide how much energy you're going to give to it, or how you're going to view it. And I was thinking about something this weekend. I was thinking about the gravity of belief. So for example, if I'm trying to create change, so I think one of the ways that we can cope with chaos is to look at it and decide how we want to create new change.
Yes.
So
yeah.
And so I think that if I'm going to try to create change and belief and habits.
My phone's going off just a sec.
You got pockets on.
Oh, I tell you, I got stuff going on all over the place here.
Okay. But
okay. Yeah, we're good.
But there's this. So there's this gravity Now, gravity, you know, works for us, keeps us grounded, keeps us from floating up into the air or whatever. Grounded, you know, gravity just works. But to create change, sometimes we have to overcome. So imagine now the change we want to create is like a rocket. And so we've got to, it takes a lot of energy to be able to even get liftoff, to overcome the gravity related to our beliefs or the meanings, like you say, the meanings of the words that and the archetypes and the energy contained that we have in those attachments.
Absolutely. I'm going to go let the dog in now, so I'm just going to.
Oh, no sweat. So I think that one of the things we can do with this whole with change is to realize that we're going to have a natural resistance to change and to the chaos. And that one of the things that Russ was speaking to is that, you know, there's an inherent energy meaning to these words, to change, to karma, to chaos, and the feelings that they invoke. And I think one of the things that we can do is that we can choose to look at these situations differently by simply making a shift in our thinking and changing our viewpoint. We totally change the gravity that's holding us in that belief, in that negative perspective and negative belief. So if we will take the time to observe, so, you know, coping with chaos, what do you do when the unexpected happens? Number one is breathe and notice what's going on. Pay attention to what's happening. Pay attention to your reactions. And don't be afraid of it. Be present with it, because I guarantee you, whatever emotion and energy you're feeling is actually going to shift and it's going to move. It's not permanent. Because, you know, and there's that whole thing that by the time I'm noticing that something's changed or that there's some chaos going on, there's something unexpected that has happened. As soon as I notice that, as soon as that unexpectedness takes place, it's already in the past. And so if I spend so the biggest thing to do around coping with chaos and how to, you know, what to do when the unexpected happens, I believe, is to take a step back and to not feed it and chase it. But to let yourself feel it and allow it to go back to the nothingness from which it came. So if there's anybody else that wants to join in, I see Khalil, nice to see you. Come on in. If you'd like to take a seat, you're welcome. Oh, looks like Rick might be coming in. We'll see what happens. So yeah, that was just what I was thinking about is just in terms of the siblings of chaos, the big brother, little sister, and the big sister of chaos and change. And so I invite you to come on in. Oh, it looks like maybe we'll see if we get Rick this time.
So the dog's inside, so I'm back.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just see Rick is back again. I see Patricia. Hi, Patricia. Nice to see you.
Hey,
hey, he's here.
I'm in. Oh,
yeah, I was just
now we lost Russ.
No,
there he is.
You know what you could do, maybe, Russ, is refresh the browser. See what happens.
Right. Yeah, when it does this, I have to restart the computer.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about that.
Well, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as your two lovely faces are on, we're good to go.
See, Patricia Holland is here. Hi, Patricia. Feel free to say hi. Oh, awesome. Be naturally. Awesome. That's cool. So we're just talking about change. One of the things I was just discussing with Russ is I was thinking about chaos. What do you do when chaos happens is that you get to know the family. Because the big brother of chaos is called Change. It's his first name. And the little sister is Karma, or cause and effect. And the older sister, the much wiser sister, is... oh, no, I got that wrong. So little sister is the voice in your head. Older, wiser sister is karma, cause and effect. So I was going to ask. I made a few comments just before you came in. The recording's on about what do you do when something unexpected happens. One of the things I said is take the time to be present with it. Now, what do you guys do with chaos? How do you cope with chaos?
Well, for myself, I find that to do, and I think this is where a spiritual practice, whatever that looks like for a person, really comes into play. And this is where if you really hardcore focus on that, because it gives you some degree of consistency as everything else changes. If you will, using somewhat overused metaphors and analogies, it really is like the rudder on the boat, not the anchor. But at least if you've got that rudder, then it's something that you can maintain consistency with. So at least it doesn't feel like your whole world is blowing up and going crazy.
Right.
I find that's been valuable for me.
Maybe I'm going to my Rick, do you have a headset? I wonder if that's me or if that's getting some feedback through the speakers.
Must be you. I'm hearing fine here.
Oh, okay. We'll see if I can fix that.
Anyways, yeah, absolutely, Russ. I'm in full agreement. Chaos can be helpful for some and unbelievably destructive for another. I have an interesting story about self-manifesting chaos. Many years ago, a very dear friend of mine, they wanted to host this wedding, and it was out in the middle of a farmer's field, actually, out in the middle of a cow pasture, that we had this amazing, amazing day. But when she first started planning this thing, she called it the Wedding of Chaos. And it was all in fun and in jest, but she held on to that genre because she always felt her life was happy chaos, and that's what she brought into this world, was happy chaos. Well, for some, happy chaos is good. For others, chaos can mean unbelievable amounts of stress and anxiety, and things will go wrong. So right. The example, or the end of the story here, is that my co-facilitator that was going to help with this marriage ceremony out in this beautiful cow pasture was late. She was no place to be found. We were there hours ahead of schedule, but the actual key facilitator for this event, she was no place to be found. And so she finally shows up when we were just about ready to step in and do it by myself instead of being co-facilitated. And she finally shows up. So the wedding did get going, but it was 2.5 hours late getting started. So it wasn't the bride, it was the actual co-facilitator. An unbelievable amount of chaos that she had to go through that morning to be present at the Wedding of Chaos. So be careful for what you ask for, and understand that chaos can be helpful, and it can be very detrimental.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that I think is interesting about. Oh, I'm definitely getting some feedback. Let's see here. Yeah, it's definitely you, Rick. Because when I silence your microphone on this end, I guess maybe it's better now. Anyways.
Oh.
Or maybe it's, hi, John, good to see you. Or sort of. It seems to be having connectivity issues the last few days. But so we're just talking about just saying hi to, it looks like MD in training. We're just talking about coping with chaos. And one of the things that we were talking about is the siblings of chaos are the big brother of change. Little sister is the voice in the head. And the older sister is karma, cause and effect. And so it's just that's just the reality of chaos, is that so one of the things I also wanted to talk about today was, I think there's 3 types of change that I've been thinking about. And so the types of change that I see happening is self-inflicted change. There's self-inflicted, unexpected, and reactive change. So the self-inflicted change, that's from my choices and the decisions that I make or the reactions that I have. The unexpected change is something that's external, that happens outside me, that I have absolutely no control over. And then the other type of change is reactive. It's my reactions to unexpected events, or simply I'm reacting to my emotional reaction. And there's this tumbling kind of exponential growth in an emotional charge. What do you guys think of that? What are some questions you folks would like to have answered around coping with chaos? Yeah, you can just type it in the chat box, or I'll just close this. 3 types of change. There's an open seat if somebody wants to come in. Come on in. The water's fine.
We're waiting for it.
I think one of the questions that people have, and I even have sometimes, is, or the challenge, I suppose, is you don't know when it's going to end. I think one of the things that disrupts folks, including myself, when that chaos, and I'm usually the first group, it's usually self-imposed when I do it, is when you enter into it, it's like, okay, it's really, really challenging / crappy right now, but next Thursday at 4:26, it will end. But yeah. I find that usually doesn't happen, right? And so I think for some people, it's almost not the reluctance isn't to jump into chaos. The reluctance is, if I jump into it, it's like I can't jump out and I don't know when it'll end.
Right, which speaks to the kind of this fear response, right? And so MD in training said, the best way I cope for me is learning to breathe, and I think that's the thing. If we can remember to breathe in the moment, because what happens to me sometimes is I go, can't believe he just said that. That was really stupid, and then I start chasing that thought. And I'm not breathing. I'm not even noticing, because I've got the charge, and I keep feeding and chasing that energy. And so, absolutely, taking a breath. And the other thing I like to do is to get out of here and focus my attention on my heart, and do that while I breathe. That really helps a lot. It might sound like a very strange, counterintuitive thing, because this thing's usually going away. Going off. And so I think that chaos, the thing is that I think chaos is a perception, just like the lack of chaos. So is chaos a lack? So I'm thinking of the difference between dark and light. Is light the absence of darkness? That whole existential question, because if you turn the light on, did darkness disappear? No, light just did its thing. The same thing that happens is, I think that when we're experiencing chaos, we flip the emotional switch gets flipped, and then what?
And then what? Okay, then what is looking for the sparkly bits on the sides? You
might have to explain that, Rick.
Yeah. When chaos happens, it's happening typically for a reason. Nothing happens without some sort of something going on somewhere, much higher than our capability of understanding most times. We either bring it on or we're a part of that situation, but it's always there for a learning experience. For us to find the serendipity in that chaos, those amazing sparkling moments, if we just take the blinders off, as MD in training said, remember to breathe. Right. When we're in fight or flight, we're not breathing, or we're in that place of chaos or anxiety, or we're ready to run. We don't breathe. We breathe way up here, and all of our extremities stop working. And when that happens, we get the blinders on, and we can't see the serendipity. We can't be a part of that serendipity. We can't see the sparkly bits that are happening on the other side of these blinders. So when we go to that place of breath, We become present, and even in the face of that chaos, whether it's karma, whether it's change, whether forced or not forced, or what was the other one? I call him Uncle Chaos instead of Uncle Cracker. But,
Okay.
yeah. When all those things show up, yeah, absolutely, it's our opportunity to see the sparkly bits, to find the gold, to whatever metaphor works for you, to learn whatever it is that we need to learn.
Right.
Sometimes we're pretty stubborn when it comes to learning lessons that we've actually chosen to come and experience, and we reject them. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that one.
Awesome.
See, so I have no idea what you're talking about with the stubbornness piece. Not at all. Haven't a
No clue at all.
we are interesting creatures when it comes to change, that's for sure.
Yeah, I see that Chuck Bartok put this question up, since chaos is complete disorder and confusion. Chuck, I'm not, is that's a question or what you meant by that, but if you want to come on in, I'll clear the seat here. And here he is.
While we're waiting.
Here he is. Hey, Chuck.
Good afternoon.
For Chuck to come in, there's another one, Phoenix Tears, and I have a reason. When issues show up in front of us, i.e. chaos, we're always present. And we've chosen to come into this life to experience these different things. However that unfolds, maybe it's just a challenge for us just to be present. So whatever that reason is, we don't have to get into our heads too much about it. And that's where the chaos really will take us out of the game, is trying to analyze, trying to figure it out, trying to be have that absolute rational understanding to it, when things could be just way outside of our acceptance of understanding. But we have that serendipity. There's something, call it whatever you want, but there is usually something on the sides that's there for us to capture, for us to have that place of joy or place of understanding or acceptance of self or another that leads us down the path to find something else new. So there begets serendipity. So whatever that is in front of you, there is always something that can turn up if we see it, if we pursue it, if we have that extra conversation, or if we take that extra corner, or if we something screws up in front of you, but wow, something else came up because you got distracted because of that. Whatever.
I think the key, one of the key things of what you said there, Rick, I think, is the coming to the acceptance of self, that I'm in this situation. Hey, Chuck, I just lost you there.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Because I had some mic problems the other day.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm hearing you good.
Okay. Well, what I tried to say is, since chaos is really the complete disorder and confusion, and the human mind is basically not that way, chaos that affects anybody has to come from external places, and we have the power to mitigate those. So the real question is, do we or do we not allow chaos in? And it's not a difficult thing to keep ourselves in control. What I've seen in society over the last 5-6 decades is that we have been focusing on minutiae. We've been directed to focus on minutiae, which is totally irrelevant to life.
Absolutely.
So, I just think there's a preponderance of BS about chaos and what, why, who, and how. I've not ever experienced chaos. I've experienced problems. Massive coronaries, things of this nature, which are not chaotic. They're just things that happen. And we have the power to control what the outcome is.
Absolutely.
Unless I wasn't given the chance to wake up. Of course, that's kind of final. But I was given the chance to wake up a couple times. So, we've lost the farm twice. You're out homeless. These are not chaotic things. They're just occurrences of life that are normal. They're normal to every human being. So why do we dwell on it? Why do we dwell on it? I don't know. But
I think some of it, you raised some really good. I mean, I love that distinction that you brought in terms of saying, that it's part of life. It's part of what's going on with life. And Phoenix Tears is brought up a couple of times now. finds it hard sometimes to expect that there's always a reason for change and for chaos. But I mean, the reality is everything's constantly moving. We live in a state of constant motion.
Right. You know, it's like weather. I live in Northern California. I've watched in the last 2 weeks the Sacramento River go up and down 9 to 10 feet.
Wow.
So, you know, from one day to the next. Well, believe it or not, that movement of nature does impact people. But guess what, folks? There's nothing you can do about it. It's just life. So today the river's up, tomorrow the river's down. Today the snow is high, tomorrow the snow is low.
Right.
We adjust our lives accordingly, and they're not problems. I was just informed by the boss, though. I do have to beg out for. I hope I'll be able to come back because I did have an appointment at 12:30.
Well, thanks for stepping in.
Thank you.
Great feedback. Well, if anybody else wants to join in, hey, Lou.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good, man. Nice to meet you.
And you as well. I hopped in because I saw you have a hard time believing things are there for a reason. And as a, what can I call myself? A manifester, law of attraction. You can forgive me all you want, and you don't. I believe some weird things, and you don't. It doesn't mean you have to as well.
Right.
And it's interesting because you mentioned the minutia. I live in New Hampshire. We have the first in the nation primary coming up. So talk about minutia.
Wow.
I just literally 10 minutes ago, I did a Periscope broadcast called "How My Day Went from to Yay."
Awesome.
And what I was explaining was I've been having this chronic problem with my back. My doctors and chiropractor think it's a bulging disc. My outstanding health insurance company has denied the request for an MRI twice because, God forbid, we could figure out what's actually wrong and then treat it. And on top of that, one of the online banks that I'm using, they had lost my initial deposit. They don't seem to have a check signature card. American Express is screwed up sending and receiving cards to me back and forth. So today, up until about 1 o'clock, has been absolute crap. Now, when I was talking to my wife earlier today, I literally sat on my desk and cried. Okay, good. Now we're done with that. Now we move on, right? And I went to the gym and I got the dopamine, and my back actually feels a hell of a lot better. And so now my day is much improved. So while that chaos went on this morning, maybe that was the reason, or that was happening so that I would actually emotionally let go, because I'm not particularly good at it. And I've been very consciously thinking about it and scoping about it and been cognizant of it and reflecting on the fact that my mom died 2 years ago, was incredibly emotional, and lived her life in a constant state of negativity. And I have vowed to not be that way. So all of this chaos this morning potentially has served as the catharsis for an emotional outburst, go to the gym, boost my mood. Now you see me the way I am. But I assure you, what time is it? I assure you 3 hours ago, I was not like this at all.
Right.
So reason, coincidence, who knows?
Well, one thing's for sure. I mean, there's two ways. I've gone through a lot of chaos in the last 5 years, especially the last 2 years.
Okay.
And there was a time where I just felt totally overwhelmed, and the only thing I could do was I felt like I was having to grasp at straws. And then I heard somebody said, one of my teachers said to me, the point of power is in the present.
Yes.
The only place where I can create something is in the present. Anything else is either I'm either ruminating about the past or I'm worried about the future. And when I'm doing that, I'm not in the present. So the only thing that I can do is to be present with it, to sit with it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and
which is absolutely counterintuitive.
Well, no, I know that, and you know the whole, whatever acronym you choose, fear, false evidence appearing real. You know what's the phrase? You can't You can't change the past. You can maybe manipulate the future, but if you live in the present, that's why it's today is a gift, and that's why it's called the present.
Right.
And you know what? We're human. That's what we do.
Right.
We dwell on the past, and what I term it is we live in our story. We all have a story about what happened to us, and you can live into the story, or you can step out of it, which can be emotionally painful for a lot of folks, and say, okay, it happened.
Yep.
And I acknowledge it happened, and this is what if I can learn something, this is what I will learn from it. But now I'm going to move on. And you can then choose if you want to sort of live into the negativity of whatever the story in the past was, or if you want to live into the optimism of whatever the future holds.
Exactly. But everything that you've spoken about requires some element of acceptance.
Of course.
Of looking at what actually is and coming to a place of acceptance. And then, like Kilmworks says, make a choice.
Everything's a choice.
Everything's a choice. So if I'm choosing to have a strong emotional reaction towards towards something, whatever it might be, that's a choice.
Yes.
Choosing to do something about it, like you did, to look after yourself, that's a choice. Choosing to be the victim of it and allowing that to continue, it would be a choice.
Yeah, and the important distinction is the difference between a reaction and a response.
Right.
Something happens.
Yep.
Whatever you do immediately is a reaction.
Yep.
As opposed to if you take a step back, breathe, be present, and then you can actually formulate a response.
Yeah, because then it gives you some distance from it then.
Yes.
I kind of like to talk about it as like, getting in a helicopter and flying out to get a bigger picture view of it, get some space. And so one of the ways that I do it is to breathe and to move from being stuck in my head to being in here, to move to my heart. And so that I think is huge, because then it gives me a little bit of space between what is, like you said, in terms of just simply reacting to what the hell I don't like.
Yeah.
As opposed to, hey, I wonder what this is all about. Or I don't like it, or whatever, right?
Just reading.
Oh yeah,
pelvic mesh. Oh my God.
Ooh boy.
75 grand for it, even though surgery will not be fixed. Be alive, but I will still be better. I might. Sorry. I'm in pain, so bladder problems and everything. You know what, Fina? I'm really sorry to hear that. And you know what? I'm damaged too. I'm not gonna mitigate or justify anything, but I'm damaged too. I've had my knees scoped 4 times. They crack and pop. They usually hurt like hell in the morning, walking up and down stairs. You can overcome. Yes, you may physically have this issue, but I've known people who have run marathons and should never have run a marathon. I've known people who have climbed mountains and never should have been able to climb a mountain. And here's one of the other things, and I learned this when I was doing a personal development course, where we basically had to hike, and we had a person who was in a wheelchair. And you know what? We, the bigger guys, put her on our back and we carried her. So here's my point. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It has been incredibly challenging for me to do that. Ask for help. You can do it.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing that is that we can choose to be, maybe there's some physical things that we have to cope with that are permanent changes, but again, we can choose to respond or react. I can choose to feed the story, make a story bigger, or I can choose to, allow it to choose to respond differently, to think of it differently, to reframe it. And, maybe all you can do is change yourself emotionally and mentally, and maybe we have limited control over what we can do physically.
Right.
But that's everything, because I believe that I came here with a consciousness, and I believe when I leave, my consciousness will go with me.
Yes.
And so that's everything. My consciousness, my development of my mind is everything. This physical thing is totally impermanent. The physical conditions, when I had to go and have bowel surgery in 2014, it's like, oh, okay. It's all turned out great, except for the fact that they took out a 7-centimeter tumor, and it's all good.
Oh,
no more treatment, no chemo, no nothing. It's all good. But
good for you.
It all worked out really great, and I knew it would because I just felt into it. But it took this long to get my shit back together, to get to get myself back on track, because coping with just
well, and as I'll quote Yoda, right?
Yeah.
You know what he's luminescent beings are we, not this crude matter. The salesman said has an interesting comment. Napoleon Hill said every difficulty carries seed to equal greater opportunity.
Absolutely.
I believe that to be true. I absolutely do.
I love that.
Because if something didn't happen, something better or different will happen that is more aligned with your destiny, intention, goal, call it what you will. And you may not understand it at the time. I have the patience of a 4-year-old. So I frequently don't understand why things happen, but I always keep in the perspective of there's a reason for this. Back to Greg, what you're saying, a hard time believing it, but I firmly believe that there's a reason for it. There always is.
Well, there's always a greater opportunity, and it's not always. I'm not always able to see it in the moment.
Yeah, well,
it sometimes it sometimes takes a while to be able to come back to it.
Every now and then you kind of wonder, okay, it's like, really? Why? What lesson is there for me here? Trust the process.
Trust the process. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's about trusting life, and so it doesn't necessarily mean I have to really like what's going on.
Right.
But I have to, to not accept it, to not look at this is the way it is, and I don't have control over this, and this, but I can do this.
Yes.
Choosing that is empowering, and it's why we're here. It's why we came back to learn what we need to learn at this particular point.
Excuse me, that's going to turn on my light. Maybe get a little. There we go. Hey, hi, how's that? No, I mean, and I agree. There are circumstances and things that go on, and one of the things someone commented on my scope. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. It's just unfortunate. It's life, and you may not be able to control all of the external thing, but you certainly can control how you respond to it. You can even, to some extent, control how you react to it, unless you're. And again, I'm working not to be this way. My mom was an incredibly emotional person, so she would fly off the handle without taking the time to gather, the critical information. So, someone runs a red light and they hit you, and they wreck your car, and now you have to deal with insurance. Very quick story. I was driving in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and making a left-hand turn. It was dark the night before Thanksgiving 3 years ago. And out of nowhere, this guy on a bicycle comes screaming at me, hits my truck. Smashed his face on the strut, was down on the ground across the street from the fire station. Great. Got him taken care of, ambulance, police report, everything else. And I learned 3 weeks later he died from having crashed into my truck. So now, did I do that? Did he do that? It took almost 2 years for the police report to come back, for me to be absolved. And I did my absolute best to separate my emotion from, oh my God, I killed this guy, to, you know what? He killed himself. He's riding at night with no lights, no reflectors. It was in the initial police report. But it's still something that happened. And so it took a lot of control in not sort of flipping out and, oh my God, I killed this guy, what a terrible person I am. And, it's just a matter of you may not be able to control circumstances, but you can control yourself around them. Excuse me.
Excellent. That's great.
Rick, you're back.
Yeah. I haven't
You were frozen.
to the whole thing. Just my picture froze, and I was waiting to try and get in between you two, but that was a little impossible.
I'll be quiet for now.
Oh, no.
The Sales Whiz got some interesting observations. You want to step in, Sales Whiz? Well, Steve Jobs says things only become clear sometimes by looking in the rearview mirror. Absolutely. I just don't want to stay in the rearview mirror.
No, you never want to do that, because then you're stuck in your story.
Correct. And the story is so damn good. Sometimes, right?
Well, I took a very interesting course once, and it was all about, you can live in the story you have now, or you can write yourself into a bigger story and grow and progress and move on up the enlightenment ladder, for lack of a better term.
Right on. Well, and it's and that again is responding instead of reacting. Hey, Sherry.
Hi.
I was froze.
Good to see you. So I see Robin Wright.
There we go.
Asking, do you do any deep breathing, grounding, tapping, etc. when you're placed in a chaotic situation? I never used to, Robin, but I absolutely do practice conscious breathing throughout the day.
I usually just yell and scream.
Yeah, that works too. Oh, that's
No,
the
that's
other
not
kind
true.
of breathing.
The very rapid kind with like weekend words coming in.
Yeah. That's awesome.
No, I don't do that. I actually, Robin, you know what I do is I laugh. I usually laugh. It's
That
like,
takes breath.
oh my God, I get to do this now.
Absolutely. That takes breath too. Hey Sherry,
Yes, it does.
what's your feedback on that?
Well, I always say that it's definitely in your response. But
Can hardly quite hear you.
can you hear me a little bit?
I'll turn up my volume. Go ahead.
So I talk really low, so maybe that's the problem.
Okay.
Now I can
You
hear you.
me? Okay, good. So just really quickly, I always tell people the 30, 60, 90-day plan, listen, you got to change your network, you got to change your mindset so that it helps change your response. And the reason why I say changing your mindset, because the network will help change your mindset. The people that you surround yourself with will help change your mindset. So change your network, change your mindset, and then you can start to change your response.
Right. That's a great point. Because, like, there's that saying that you become like the 5 big people you spend the most time with.
Right.
And I think that because the natural thing that happens is that we absorb one another's energy, we absorb one another's perspective.
Right. And
One of the things I like-
everybody else is sitting around, woe is me. And guess what? You're gonna be sitting around, woe is me also.
Right. Exactly. Great point, Sherry. Great point.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get out now. Bye.
Awesome. Nice to see you. Welcome anytime.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's there's let's see here. Rick's coming in. Private Man's gonna come in. Awesome. Yeah, I think that interesting. Robin's World says that men react differently to chaos than women,
No, absolutely.
and that totally makes sense.
Yeah, because men and women are different. Whoa, there's a
Completely.
revolutionary concept.
What? We're different.
Wow,
Is that
unbelievable.
what? Is that why she's curvy and smells good?
I don't know, but men and women are so different. I'm amazed that species can even reproduce.
Hey, Robin.
You
good to
are
see
so
man.
kidding, because we don't think that We think so differently. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I wish more people would have a better understanding of that going forward. I joined a support group last year for what ails me, and I mean, you know, I'm not going to rag on women, but basically it's just a bunch of dames sitting around bitching and moaning. And you know something, I want concrete solutions, boys and girls. I'm not going to sit around bitching and moaning, and I'm not going to be wallowing in self-pity. And it's like, I mean, I need to move on in life because, you know, I got the shit to deal with. It's pretty serious stuff, mind you. But you know, I still have to deal with it, and I don't want to wallow. Like I said, I don't want to wallow in self-pity. You know, I know what I'm dealing with, and so there.
All right, I have something to say.
Hey, Robin.
Male perspective.
Awesome.
Go, Robin.
Yeah, please bring some female energy to this conversation.
So, I say this only because I've been in therapy for so long, and so is my husband. We both go to the same therapist individually and together. We love her. She's awesome. And what I learned, what I took away from what the private man said there, he went to a support group, and it's a bunch of women sitting around moaning and groaning, feeling sorry for themselves. And I truly believe that's what you thought it was. Truly. Because my husband would be the same way. But it's that difference between men and women that women, it may sound like we're bitching and moaning and groaning, but we're actually expressing our feelings and trying to work it out and stuff, right? Where I understand the man wants that concrete, just how do I fix it? How do I make this go away? How do I solve it? How do I be done with it? Would you? Right. And so that's what I thought of when you were talking, the private man. And there's nothing wrong with either way. There's the women, right? Women aren't right, men aren't right. It's just differences, and then there's differences within each sex as well. But there's nothing wrong with the way men do it and the way women do it. We just have to be understanding of how the other person will react, especially if we're married to the opposite sex, things like that.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, the other thing is, I think we could all do well to men take on some of that feminine energy.
No, actually, I disagree strongly. Strongly disagree. I think men have been doing that way too much for the past 2 generations. I think we're all old enough to remember the let's get men in touch with their sensitive side. And then 5 to 10 years later, it seems that every single woman was bitching and moaning about where are all the real men. I think that paradigm of men getting in touch with their feelings is failing men miserably. It's failing in their relationships. It's failing in their being attractive to women. I think we're doing is applying a feminine paradigm to masculine behavior.
I don't disagree.
I don't totally disagree with you. And I got that. I meant a lot more than the feelings. I think that there's a divine, you know, depending on what your spiritual background or perspective is, there's a divine feminine and a divine masculine. I've met women that carry very strong masculine energy. I've met men that carry very strong feminine energy. We have both of those energies.
It doesn't mean you have to behave like the opposite gender.
Exactly.
One of the best courses that my wife and I ever took was with Allison Armstrong. I don't know if anyone knows who she is. Mm-hmm. And it explains exactly what you're talking about, the difference between men and women. Men, single focus, we're the hunters. You know what? There's an obstacle in the way. We're just going over it. Women are the gatherers, so they can tell us which berries in the field are going to ripen first and which ones are bad, and don't eat those. And so if we think this way, women think this way, somewhere in the middle we meet. Right. It's okay to be aware of that, but private man, I think what you're talking about is that there are men who go overboard and actually live into it.
Yeah, they do, but the problem is
that's the tragedy,
right? And they're being told to do that. I still read. I mean, I cover this stuff from a cultural point of view and on my blog as well. I read this stuff all the time. Okay. There are websites out there. In fact, a couple of years ago, there was this horrible video that went viral, and it's a couple of guys apologizing. Actually, it's more than a couple of guys. It was a bunch of guys apologizing to women for being men. And these guys were just...
Well, that's just stupid.
I know it was stupid. Wow. And they caught a lot of hell, and righteously so. And then Will Ferrell and somebody else came out and did a great parody of it. And then a bunch of women came out and said, hey, look, we saw this video, and guess what? We'd like to thank men. And it was wonderful to see. It was a whole bunch of women in a video basically thanking men for, as I say, keeping the poop in the toilet, meaning that we built so think about it. I mean, we built
That's great.
We maintain this civilization. And no one's coming up to the guys keeping the poop in the toilet saying, thanks very much. I don't see a lot of women working down the water treatment plant.
But there are women like that.
There's a vanishingly small number of women, and we focus on those women way too much. Hey, let's focus on the guys keeping the poop in the toilet.
And you should, and that's the thing. That's exactly what I'm saying. And what Lou was saying is, I agree, is that I'm not asking my husband to become effeminate in any shape or form. And as a matter of fact, in a negative way, and I've learned better, I've called him a pussy on a couple of times. You know, I mean, I have, and it really hurt him.
Yes, I'm sure it did.
Right, because I mean, I attacked his bravado for sure, right?
Right.
But I've learned.
You emasculated him.
Yeah,
exactly.
go ahead.
And I've
keep
learned.
at it, lady. We'll see how far that goes.
No. Listen, the private man. My husband and I have been married since 1992. We have been as close as to divorce as you can get without being divorced many times. We have had major, major problems in our marriage. We both have to work on it really hard, but we both have to respect the female perspective and the male perspective. So I don't do that anymore to him. I learned better. And he's learning better to understand that I just think differently than him. And that's what Lou was saying, is that you just have to be able to be aware of it. It doesn't mean I want my husband to act like a woman, and I don't think my husband wants me to act like a man. We just have to be aware, appreciate it.
There's that whole weird energy we have around conflict too, right? That conflict is bad, but it can be very therapeutic because suddenly, you know, if people, as long as people can stay and communicate and own their stuff and communicate, people have a lot of energy around people that have strong emotions that somehow it's bad, but it's actually, like Lou says, it can be therapeutic. There's a therapeutic value to communicating, for crying out loud, and therapeutic value to asking for help, saying, I don't know how to do this.
Well, I think.
Well, and there's one of the most valuable things that we learn in this course, and guys, you know this. Hello, sweetie. How was your day? She's going to tell you.
How was her day? And
you are going to get your basket out, and she is going to fill the basket, and it is your job, because this is where the feminine energy comes in. You have to know which thing is important, because she'll tell you 10 things and 2 things matter. She just wants to unload the basket. It's called the Meadow Report.
Right.
And once again, you guys, we are freaking men. You know how I know? Look, I got a big hairy chest. Okay? And my wife loves that I'm a male, and I love that she is female.
Right.
And she has a strong masculine side, and I have a strong feminine side, and that's great. But I'm a man, she's a woman, we behave it. But at least when she's doing something, I can identify that's the feminine part.
Right.
Okay, so I need to know these 2 things. And when I'm doing something, and guys admit it, it's usually stupid, she can understand why we're doing it. Why is it that I'm going to go to Home Depot 8 times to get different parts, and she, while we're out, and girls, the worst thing you can ever say to your husband if he's on his way out the door, I'll go with you. He doesn't want you to go with you.
No, do not go.
He wants to go do what he's going to do and come back and not go to the laundry and stop here and stop here. Oh, and by the way, we need this.
Right.
So, again, I'm not going to behave like a woman, but I'm aware of the characteristics and the behavior.
Well, I think what happens is that eventually men figure it out. Hopefully they figure it out. And there are places for men to go on the internet, and most women go to those places and run away screaming because it's men being so brutally honest that it's absolutely impossible for women to do it. But that's okay. I mean, there used to be something. There were men's clubs in the past where men would get together, and they were fraternal organizations, and they were only open to men, and they'd sit around and drink brandy and smoke cigars and talk about the issues of the day and talk about things that impact them away from the prying eyes of women. And those spaces are gone in real life for the most part, but they do exist on the internet. And once you go down that rabbit hole, it's for a lot of people it can be a scary place, but for a lot of guys, it's like, well, where have these men been? Now they're all talking about this stuff. And for the younger guys, it's basically how to pick up women. It's for the older guys. It's how to work on themselves in terms of their physique, in terms of their attitude and their frame and their mindset. And it's all guys helping each other. And it's quite remarkable to see. And it's big, and it's getting bigger, and occasionally bubbles up into the mainstream media. This is where I get a lot of my strength in order to cope with what I have to cope with.
Where was that?
Just Google the manosphere.
Oh, okay. There's also the Mankind Project.
I so want my
I know about those
husband to
guys.
meet all you guys.
What's that?
I'm a little. Go ahead.
I said I so want my husband to meet all of you guys, and there's a specific reason, because he needs to be a guy. He needs to have that, and I encourage him to go out with his buddies from work and to go out and do things with the guys and stuff. We went to a class for mental health. Our son has some issues, and there was only a couple other dads in the room, mostly moms, but the couple of dads that spoke out and just vented a little bit, they spewed a little bit, Lou, like I was talking about. My husband was just sitting there shaking his head going, oh my God, somebody understands me. No one's trying to tell me to calm down, like I do with him. And he needs that just as much as I need females. I'm going to
jump up a whole nother can of worms, because men tend to feel like they're imposters because they don't see other men talking about these issues and being upfront about them, and so they think it's just them, and then they feel like a fake.
And that's why this part of the internet has become so popular amongst men, even younger guys, even guys in high school, because there is a generation of men raised by single moms, and single moms can only go so far. Where is dad? Where are the older relatives being honest and being forthright with these young men? I get emails from young men all the time. I've done Skypes with young men, guys in their early 20s. Even before their brains have fully evolved, they're confused and frustrated, and they're looking, saying, okay, what do I do? How do I become more attractive to girls? What college courses should I take? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, where the hell are the fathers? Well, they're not there for whatever reason. That's a whole other discussion. But they're just not there. Either physically, emotionally, intellectually, they're just not there. And these guys, through the anonymity of the internet, they're very, very, happy to reach out and say, okay, here's somebody who's older and wiser who might be able to give me an alternative opinion than just mom saying to me, well, be nice and be yourself. By the way, the two worst pieces of advice that a mom can give her 14-year-old son. If being nice and being himself isn't getting his needs met, then perhaps he needs to change that up a little bit.
Right. I want to jump in real quick and say I'm going to jump off camera and leave the seat open. I really love this conversation that you guys are having. Sorry. I hope that you guys maybe do some more blabs about this, where there's especially a lot of men in here, but you got to allow a woman in every once in a while.
Absolutely. But Robin, I just want to say that I'm doing a blab every single day this week at 5 p.m. I got one around called Mirror Monday, 5 p.m. So that's before p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain.
Oh, perfect. We're in Central Time Zone. I was already following you guys. I wrote down all three of your names for my husband, and I'm going to have him come and look up your profiles here on Blab. And I would love, I think you guys are a great fit for him. So keep up, do it. Be men. It's okay.
Absolutely.
Be men. All right, bye, guys.
And be women, Robin.
Thank you.
All right, ciao.
Yes.
Yeah, and there is our modern.
I'm saying be a woman, Robin, and I'm going like this.
No, I was responding to being a man.
No, I know.
Eating meat. And killing things.
There's also a lot of cultural expectations that are causing a tremendous amount of confusion for both men and women alike. And if you look at some of the statistics, and I'm a big fan of data, I'm not a big fan of anecdotes. And if you look at some of the statistics out there, that women's general happiness has been declining for 40 years.
Really?
Yeah, there was an article. It came out of the UK. Some stats. I believe it was either the Guardian or the Daily Mail, which is that I'm not a big fan of the Daily Mail. Look at the methodology behind the study, and it is very true. Is that women are not happier. They are getting increasingly unhappy because of a lot of the social expectations that are going on.
Have you read the book Wild at Heart?
No, I think I've heard of it though. Again,
it's a great book. It talks about exactly that, exactly this.
Okay, as long as it's got good data to back it up. I mean, a whole series of anecdotes and personal essays I can do without. But as long as the data is there to back it up in terms of solid social research, and a lot of social research really sucks. But as long as it's backed up by the data, I have absolutely no problem reading anything. I mean, there's an awful lot of touchy-feely stuff out there that I totally discount because it's highly subjective. It is based on personal experience only, can't be applied to everybody. It's not the greatest good for the greatest number. It's the greatest good for one person who is trying to inflict that on everybody else around them.
Well, it's really interesting that you bring that kind of thing up because I spent 30 years working as a business coach and as a trainer in my own business. I've coached more than 500 entrepreneurs, and I retired in 2010 and relaunching my business. But it's not around being a business coach; it's around what I call headstrong and heartfelt, having been able to hold both of those energies. Because if we need to be able to literally cope with chaos is by finding us an inner harmony.
Well, I guess that if that works, I can never argue with success. I will certainly never argue with success. Yeah, somebody said, I think it's pretty clear you're not a touchy-feely person. No, I'm not. I used to be. I used to be a very touchy-feely person. And certain things happened in my life that said, wait a minute, I need to reevaluate that position. And then I started reading a lot about the statistics. I read about a lot of experiences with guys, going down a rabbit hole of men who had sort of unplugged from the matrix.
Right.
And they've taken the red pill. And it's basically looking at the world not how it should be, but how it actually is. The realities of human behavior, the realities of how human beings interact in a lot of different social contexts. And there's a lot of how things should be. And every time I hear the word should, my hackles go up.
Got a lot going on there, Lou. Makes a lot of noise.
Sorry.
So that somebody says, well, it should be like this. Really? Well, I should have a yacht. I really should have a yacht. So where's my government program to buy my ass a yacht? There isn't one. And so, yeah, that's how it should. So every time I hear somebody say how things should be, it's like, no. Let's talk about how things really are. Let's talk about the
There's
realities.
no such thing as should.
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean, and what that does is it sets up false expectations. It sets up people for disappointment.
Yeah.
If we deal with the reality on the ground, I think we're going to be a lot happier and a lot more fulfilled. Yeah, that might make us cynical. There's your unfortunate unintended consequence.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that we have to deal with the reality on the ground. I mean, that's just how it is. And that was made very clear to me because you can look at my profile, but in my eye patch, and that I'm dealing with something extremely serious right now. I don't make a big deal about it. It doesn't own me. That's why I don't spend much time at that particular support group because I don't want to sit around bitching and moaning. I'd rather work on things that I find much more rewarding than wearing a ribbon. In fact, what I have doesn't even have a damn ribbon. So
you didn't get a participation trophy?
Oh God! Actually, there was a really funny Kia commercial about that. In fact, I wish I had the link to it.
I love that.
About? Yeah, where
yes, I do.
The dad is like walking back after the game, and he's like, "A
participant
or participation trophy? We won.
We won every game.
We won every game, and we get a participation trophy." And the guy's like, "Wait!"
He rips the thing off and writes "champ" on it.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought that commercial was absolutely brilliant because it does speak to the participation culture. Just showing up is enough. No, it's not enough. We all just show up by being born. Okay, that's showing up. It's like
agreed. Absolutely.
It's like
so. Really, guys, I'm gonna have to hop off because my door's been closed for about a half an hour. And
sure.
I've heard a few knocks from my staff.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have to go. This has been a great chat, guys.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
So I was just going to say that this has gone a little longer than I thought, and I've got another lab coming up.
That's fine.
At 5 o'clock Mountain. But thanks for popping in, Private Man. Just as a little commercial, just put in a link to my website, Private Man, if you want to put your link in there. Thanks for dropping by. And
let me do that real quick. Also, let me say that on a sort of an ad hoc basis, I do every now and again will have a blab talk. The last one I did was, man talk.
Oh, cool.
Blunt talk from the guys, and it was strictly ad hoc. I didn't schedule in advance, and I got about 12 or 13 people in there, including a couple of women who kind of were a little nonplussed by the whole conversation. But then again, it was guy talk. It wasn't. Right. We weren't toning it down for the benefit of the ladies. Cool. It was men getting together and talking about stuff. There's my link. It's awesome. A personal blog, but I talk about attraction and dating issues for post-divorce singles.
That's great, and thanks for everybody for watching. And we'll every Friday, every weekday at 5:00 Mountain Standard Time. I'm going to be doing a blab around different issues around. Living consciously. And so I've got some scheduled. You can go into my profile and take a look at what's coming up and subscribe to it. You'll be reminded, and love the feedback, and looking for more men and women to participate. Love to have this conversation. And remember that all we need to do sometimes is just breathe and look at the way it is. And then if you sit with it long enough, it suddenly moves on and the next thing comes. So anyways, everybody have a really great day, and thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.